Hello, my friends. I hope you all are doing very well today. I wanted to release a video today speaking specifically about the ISS jellyfish. Saw Rev Deuce putting out a video today, and I try really hard that when I put out a video that is in line exactly like the same video, I don't want to put out just word for word what someone else has said. And so I try to not do that. I try to put out a spin, my own spin on it. Or if I feel like there's additional information that was just kind of missed, it's really important for the players to know, I try to put that in a video, give credit to whoever, and explain the differences. So today I'm gonna cover some of the same stuff that Rev did. If you've been a member or subscriber, I should say, of my channel for a while now, you'll know that I've been discussing this for a while. Actually, some of my Alliance Cran, this goes out to you, buddy. He pinged me today in Discord. He's like, does this sound familiar? Referencing Rev's video about the jellyfish today. And I was like, dude, we've been talking about that. And we have. I've been talking about the jelly loop for weeks. Some time ago, I even put out a video where we had discussion about the jelly loop in my live stream on Twitch, which, by the way, just a shout out to you all to remind you that I am streaming on Twitch twice a week. Come and join us. I put my links for that and Discord below, just trying to grow a community of people to help each other. But it's a lot of fun, so come join us. You can just kind of come hang out as you have time. Okay, so so we've been talking about this for a while. I've actually been taking some steps. I literally just put my second jellyfish, ISS jellyfish, into the scrapper tonight. 3 days more, and I will be able to move on to the next stage. So I want to talk to you about that from a G5 player's perspective. I can add some more to it that Rev didn't, I feel like, cover, and I feel like is important for you to know. So even if you're not a G5 player, that's something you can keep in mind as you progress down the road. So go ahead and just let's watch the video, let's talk about it, and feel free to throw your comments in the description below. I'd love to hear from you all. Okay, here we are in game, and let's go over some things. I'll get rid of my camera just so we can kind of talk about some things and do a good job here talking about them. So I think the important thing to note is that there is a natural progression in this loop that starts not just with scrapping the ISS jellyfish, but you have to have an understanding about where your research needs to be. Now, Rev gave some actual numbers. I want to try and present it to you in a way that is like, okay, you don't actually have to go out and calculate all your percentages. If you want just a general idea about what I would recommend that you have your research at, and we'll talk about this. He mentioned in his video, I've mentioned in numerous videos and on live stream to people, but there's some research that you can focus on if you're a G5 player and above. In the station tree that I find really helpful. First off, you got to make sure your scrapping is up to speed. Okay, so there's this orbital scrapping that is probably one of the better scrapping researches you want to make sure you get. I didn't take it past 6 yet because I kind of felt for the small percentage increase I'm getting at this point, I didn't want to spend rare on it yet because I am pushing to 60 hopefully next month. So I decided not to do any more on that. There's also like some parts research and material research, I think, here. So flight material, I could do some of that to help with my ship components, and maybe that's worth it. I don't want to spend any rares right now, so we'll think about that. But right here, I've got this as high as I want to for now, just because of the rare cost that go along with that. But the other great place for research is in the outlaw tree here. So let's see here. It's this Apex Chop Shop, okay? And you can find other research, but there is that. And then in the mirror tree, this is where I've kind of been focusing, because this has been a major focus for me, is I pushed to this rapid scrapping, trying to get this here. Now, not everyone will have access to this because you haven't unlocked the protector, but just to mention it, that this right here is something that can help you. Goes up to 180% when max. So something that is probably good to focus on if you're going to be doing this scrapping game. Okay. And I call it a game because it feels like a mini game where you're trying to get as much of this stuff done as you can. Okay, so rather than talking about percentages, I thought I would just say that before Lorca came out, now I did buy Lorca this month, and he does have some nice percentages, and I spent all my stuff on the efficiency tree. So I have the ship parts, and these are selectable, which kind of annoys me a little bit, but 325%, and I have to switch it over to the jellyfish, I suppose, when I'm doing those. So you want to make sure you keep those in mind, but there's some good efficiency here. When upgrading ship components, 228%, that's pretty nice. And then 120%, oh wait, that's for buildings, I apologize. And that's for buildings too. So, all right, okay, so that should be the two. So you've got materials here for your ship components, and then you've got for the parts here. So once again, I need to change this. Might as well do it now so I don't forget when I end up getting around to working on the jellyfish. So you want to have those if you have him. If not, when you unlock him, just remember those are really valuable as far as efficiencies go. Before he came out, so it does change the calculations a little bit. I think that the main two things you want to focus on are the prime efficiency ship parts and the ship prime efficient ship engineering. So obviously ship parts, and then you've got materials as well as crystal gas or dilithium and whatnot to for ship components. See right there. This I found that it seems like in my calculations and talking with other players that getting these two, and once again, this is before Lorca, so it does affect it a little bit, and there's stuff in the, there's other research for parts and materials in the Mirror Universe tree. But I would say that these two, if you can have these at like tier 7 is probably, or level 7 is probably about the tipping point for these. So 7 or 8 is where you want to be with that. And as a reminder, so many places to go, but I want to try and walk you through kind of all this information where it's at, even if you've heard it before. Just want to remind you. So sorry. And look, it's not loading that graphic. That's great. So in Spy Master, in section 31, I'm Spy Master. You can get prime dolomite particles 10 per day right there. So that's good. And then in X-Borg, every 5 days, you can turn in, and I believe there's one when you go G6, there's another one, but I turn these in every 5 days. So the G4, I do a double turn in, and you need to be able to have your NX01 to the point that you're turning in for the rare chips. We won't cover that in this video, but if you're able to do that on a regular basis, you'll get the credits you need to be able to double turn these in. I've given up on, or not given up, I've put off some of the other favors in focusing on these prime dolomite particles. I'll probably switch back more focus towards the favors once I get these max. But you get 2 times 20, so that's 40 from this one. And if you have a G6 box, I'd love to hear from you. But 2 times 30 is 60, so 60 and 40 is 100. And then if you're getting 10 every day from section 31, that's 150 every 5 days. So it does add up. It really does. Okay. And so I'm about ready to get my level 7. I should be able to get that tomorrow before I move this loop any farther. So about level 7 is about where you want those to be. So even if you're away from this, I would say start working on these as much as you can, so that once you get to this point and you want to start scrapping some of these ships, that you'll be able to do so because you'll have the research caught up. This is also going to help you with your other ships that you're building, whether it's ship parts or materials. It's going to have a huge impact, and every time I've increased one of these researches, gone to the next level, it has a huge impact. So very important. Okay, something else to mention is sourcing. For the longest time, it's been very difficult in the game, and it still kind of is pretty difficult to source the jelly blueprints. You can actually go in to the Alliance store, and I've started pulling this again, trying to keep up on it, and you'll have to determine if you can keep up on it or not. but I believe it's the G4 Epic Armada pack that actually pays out a chance. It's only like maybe four for a pull, but anytime you can get jelly blueprints is going to be great. You do have a small chance at a max pull, and those are very rare, but I would say get those as much as you can there. You can also win them if you haven't got a jelly in the jelly spend event. Those are hit and miss because last I heard they were super hard to win. When I did it, they still had brackets, but that were more generous. But last I heard, they were very difficult to win, where you had to get like the top place to even win enough shards to make it worth it, or enough blueprints. So that's frustrating. The other place here is in territory. Now this is for a select few, and I think this is one of the most difficult parts of the journey with the jelly. Oh, I can pull that. I'll probably have to do that later. But the ISS jelly, there is jelly services in some of the territories. We don't currently have that, but if you do and you have extra ISO, or not ISO, emulsion, I would recommend pulling that every single time so you can keep this loop going. So that's one of the most difficult parts of the loop. If any of you can think of other ways to source the blueprints, I'd love to hear from you, but it can be very difficult to source. I would take advantage of any opportunity you get, even if you're not in the 50s where I'm at, to start taking advantage of this. Okay, so that's kind of talks a little bit about the sourcing. Let's hop in and talk about costs. I want to show you some information here real quick. Okay, so here's my calculation of where I'm at. I showed you my research. I've got Lorca. The most impactful things are probably Lorca and then those primes. And so what I did was I went into Spock's Club and I did a calculation, and I said, okay, so to take it from 1 to 12, so I came in here to Spock's Club and I went to the cost calculator, just walk you through this. Going to ISS Jellyfish, it predicted what I had because I've been looking it up a lot lately. But yeah, so I can go into ISS Jellyfish, 1 as the starting. It tries to figure out what level I have, I think, and predict it. Excuse me. But then you can come in here and you can look at costs. And so I just took all these costs. I just ignored the titanium and dilithium because for me that was not consequential. But I looked at parts, common, uncommon, rare, as well as the common, uncommon, and rare for gas and ore that's needed to take it from 1 to 12. Okay, and then these costs will adjust. One thing you can do though is if I were to come in here, I could actually come down here and I could say, okay, what if tomorrow when I can max this, or take it up to 7, what's the impact? So we have it at 6. What's something that's taking a lot? Uncommon refined gas is 101,000, just for example's sake. If I take that up to 7, what does it do for me? Uncommon gas takes it down to 89K. So that just shows you it's a pretty impactful decision, even if it's just one level going up. So higher you can get these, if you can max them, all the better for you. One other thought I forgot to mention a minute ago is that remember that if you haven't done your Voyager field training yet, you can actually do that and get quite a good amount of dolomite particles, and I would recommend dropping them in here. Probably the most impactful thing, I like to keep these about equal. Obviously my parts is higher, but I think you need to have both at least 7, but especially the parts can be a little bit of a bottleneck for you. Also, Rev did mention in his video that he didn't really see the point about scrapping G3 ships. I have to respectfully disagree. I found in my game that I was short on the rare gas that I needed, so I started building and maxing and scrapping G3 Enterprises. It didn't give me much. It gave me like 23, I think about 2,300. I could look it up, but I think it was about 2,300 rare gas per ship. And so I was scrapping multiple of those so I could get enough rare gas to start this loop. So if you find yourself in the same position, just keep that in mind. Okay, so I put all the calculations in here. Common Explorer parts, you can, You don't get any of those for scrapping, but you do get some for scrapping G3 Enterprises or other Explorers. Uncommon Explorer parts, I'm getting more than enough, plenty for just scrapping one. Rare Explorer parts, I get 45, so plenty to be able to continue the loop. And that's helpful. So it just kind of goes down here, and the more you have, the more beneficial it's going to be. I have plenty of common, so at this point in my game I'm not really concerned about that, and I've kind of gotten to the point now where I'm getting enough that I'm actually positive. So it'd be great once I can get it to 7 or 8 with the materials efficiency as well. So if we look here, one thing that I am kind of considering right now, and I'm probably going to do this is the USS Enterprise A. And the reason why I'm showing you this here is that this takes it a step farther than Rev, I think, covered. And I think this is really important that I point out and emphasize to you, is that when you are trying to advance past the G4 into G5, especially at my level, I need like 13,000. Well, it's been the last month or two. I was around 20 or 30,000 rare materials of gas, ore, and crystal that I needed. Now the Enterprise isn't going to help me with the crystal, so that's another story. But with the ore and the gas, scrapping USS Enterprise can help me with that. So two things. One, I'm looking at scrapping this to give me the rare materials I need to go to 60, but you can also continue to do the jelly loop, as they call it, that you can scrap your jelly to give you the rare that you need, as well as the parts. So you've got the Explorer parts, and then the materials, the gas, including the uncommon and rare, that you can then take and invest that in a USS Enterprise A if you have one, or you can look at some coronars and see what you can get from maxing one of those and scrapping those. The problem with this, and that's why I mentioned the scrapping research earlier, is that it can take you like 3 weeks. If you have decent research, it's going to take you weeks in order to scrap this in order to get the results. But why not if it's going to help you advance your gameplay? The thought of scrapping an Enterprise A that I worked so hard to get does kill me. I won't lie. But I grew up watching Next Generation, and so if it's going to help me get to 60 and it's going to help me get and max an Enterprise D, then I'm okay with that. So that's my justification. Ends justify the means. All right. So let's look here. So we've got Enterprise A, there's the cost, we scroll past that all the way down here, wherever we put in, if I scrap a max one, it's gonna give me almost 17,000 rare gas. It's gonna give me what else? Ship XP, tons of it. Not enough to max a jelly because that's so expensive, but it's gonna give me tons of common Explorer parts, so when I get the Enterprise D, this won't be a problem. It's gonna give me a lot of uncommon and rare Explorer parts, so this is really gonna take care of that. And the main thing I think I'm gonna struggle with is the materials, so that's why I'm starting to focus on the material research in my game. So anyways, the main focus here is what can you do to advance your loop even farther. It is not, I emphasize this, it is not just G4 scrapping it so you can max your G4 ships, even though that is probably important and relative to a good chunk of the player base now. But I want you to think past that. I want you to think down the road. Yes, investing in your G4 ships is going to help you get a stronger ship to do dailies, events, advance your game, and so forth. But don't stop there. Think about Valdors and Coronars and Enterprise A's that you can scrap and give you the gas and the ore that you need to advance your ops, or even, as I'm looking down the road at my Enterprise D that I'm hoping to get next month. The one thing I wish they had in game that they don't, that I have seen, is by scrapping a jelly you can actually get rare Explorer parts. I don't know any other ship in the game where you can scrap it to get rare interceptor parts or rare battleship parts for G4s. And so that's still a bottleneck. That's still frustrating if you're trying to max those ships, which you can also max, your 46 rare ships like a Newton or your Pylum that you can then scrap as well for some G5 stuff. But it's just there's not the rare parts is a bottleneck. Now Eviscerator helps with that. It's not the end all be all, right? It's not as amazing as the Jelly Loop is, which they had something similar to that, but it's just something we're going to have to struggle through unless they bring something else in the game. So keep in mind, just keep in mind that this may actually help you, that you start with a jelly if you have the research. You scrap the jelly, and then you get that 4-star stuff, and you invest in like a 46 rare ship. Once again, Newton, Pylum, gosh, a Coronar. My brain just went dead. All this information, right? Okay, so those 3 ships that you can then scrap for G5 material to move your game even further along. You may look at the calculations, and if you're into that, then you can put a spreadsheet together just like I did here to do your own calculations. If not, you're just like, hey, Hunter, just give me the details. Just give me generally what I have to do. One thing I would mention is that I noticed that when I was doing this, that I had to scrap 2 jellies in order to give me enough parts to keep me going or to get me started with this. So you may need to scrap a couple of jellies, but I probably wouldn't do it unless you have at least level 7 of both of the primes. I probably jumped the gun not having my second one at for materials at 7, so that's my pain, but hopefully I can pass that on to you to kind of correct that going forward. So hopefully this video has been helpful. Hopefully it gives you some good information, tells you some of the pitfalls and things to think about. But in summary, it's not just G4. It can literally help you advance your game into the G5 area. And as you're propelling yourself and you're investing in those primes, it should help you even as you go further. Because if we look, once again, we'll take just a moment here. But as far as I know, these do not just stop at G5. Nothing here says G4, G5, G6. So I think these are a huge investment for you to have in your game that will help you down the road as well. So anyways, hopefully that additional information is helpful to you, gives you some more insight from a G5 player's perspective and how you can actually use this loop to help you in your game. So anyways, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next time.